Hey, here we are, Sportsbook Betting Insight today. Pauly and Teddy, Wednesday, September 13th. Big game breakdown, Thursday, ESPN, New Mexico against Boise. And tonight, the Angels and the Astros continue their big series. Correlated parlays, how the pros bet parlays in the deep dive and the play of the day before we get out of here. Midweek line moves coming up in football in a second. We start with a bad beat. The Marlins lost 9-8 to the Phillies in 15. They led 7-2. They also led going to the bottom of the ninth and the bottom of the 10th and could not win the game.
Yeah, that's a tough beat if you had Miami last night. You have a 5-run lead against a dead team in the 7th inning. You're supposed to win those games. You got a lead in the bottom of the ninth, or heading into the bottom of the ninth, and another lead heading into the bottom of the 10th. Bullpen meltdowns for the Marlins, one of a number of causes why Miami not in the playoff chase.
This surprised me. The Angels took money. Open plus $1.20 at home, closed the favorite against the Astros. Verlander does it again. 8 innings, 1 hit, 1-0 Astros.
Yeah, and a ton of money on LA. And bettors were right. They thought that Garrett Richards was getting back into form, and he was. The problem is Justin Verlander had another monster night last night. He's stepping up big time with the prospects of the World Series out there. He gave up a grand total of 1 hit and 8 innings of work. Struck out 9 Angels. Yeah, that was a bad bet on LA, being that they didn't score a run.
Dodgers finally win. Kershaw took money. 30-cent steam there, up to 275. Got this discrepancy here with our stats guy. I saw money come in on the Tigers, because I know some professionals couldn't pass up the plus 430, plus 20 return on a baseball game. But he saw as high as 550 in Vegas. I saw as low as 450 after they opened $5. But they win again. It's incredible. 20 in a row. Second longest winning streak in the last 82, 83 years. These starters have 18 wins with a 1.71 ERA. They have more home runs than runs allowed during the streak.
Yeah, I mean, look, bookmakers are not enjoying this streak from the Cleveland Indians. And even if there was some wise guy money on Detroit, Cleveland's in every parlay right now. Cleveland's in every, literally, on every square bettor's card on a day-in, day-out basis. So when the Indians win, especially here in Las Vegas, that doesn't cater largely to professional bettors, the bookmakers lose. And look, Corey Kluber was toying with the Tigers last night. 8 strikeouts, no walks. He's now up to 16-4 with a 2.44 ERA this season. Corey Kluber, once again, pitching like an ace. And that was a bad result for the books, as well as the Dodgers finally getting off the schneid.
Yeah, they were taking money all the time, too. Covers had a good tweet. If you just put $100 betting against the Dodgers during the 11-game losing streak, you were up over $2,200. Amazing. Orioles, Blue Jays, 9.5 down to 8.5. Blue Jays rallied to win that one in a low-scoring game. And an 80-cent move on the Cubs. They're 5th worst in ROI. They're still in first place. 80-cent move. Quintana beat the Mets 8-3.
Yeah, I mean, no surprise money's coming against the Mets on a consistent basis. Marginally competitive baseball in September. Some teams, let's say the Blue Jays, they've gotten a spark from some of the call-ups. That hasn't happened in New York. Ton of money, 80-cent move towards Chicago. Kyle Schwarber going 3 for 3. He's got his average up to 207 now, Pauly. It's been a big battle for Schwarber against the Mendoza line all season long.
I can't believe at 5 dimes they're 550 to win the division. The field's plus 4 and change. That's lunacy. With only a 2-game lead. Big series Friday as the Cardinals come to Wrigley. 20-cent move on the Royals. Open 170, close 190. Moss hit a grand slam in the first. That's all they needed. 4-3 final.
Yeah, bizarre game. KC gets the win. They got out hit 13-4. They scored the 4 on only 2 hits in the first inning, and that was enough to hold up. Royals took a bunch of money. That was not a good result for the bookmakers last night.
NFL early week line movers. Look at this. As we tape, the Bengals up to 6.5. Watson took the majority of snaps in practice. That has gone from 3 to 6.5. And the Titans picked to 2.5 as well. And movement on the Bucks and the Lions Monday night, Teddy.
Yeah, I mean, let's start with Cincy, because literally this one is moving as we speak. Send it to the graphics guys. All right, get it ready for 6. And then it just got bet up to 6.5 in the last few minutes before we went on air. So we've seen a lot of Cincinnati money. The market's not responding well to the concept of the rookie quarterback, Deshaun Watson, forced to travel and play a pretty good defense on a short week. the short week being key. Nothing but Cincy money. And of course, with Tennessee and Jacksonville, this is all wise guy money. What are the wise guys saying? The Titans were a hot team coming in the preseason, or coming out of the preseason. The Jags, not so much. Jacksonville looked great last week. Tennessee, not so much. The wise guys saying, well, you can expect a flip there. Tampa, I'm assuming the money there is coming. They're expecting some kind of an emotional edge playing at home, which there may be some, but we certainly didn't see a whole lot of emotion from the Texans, for example, in their first home game. And the Lions against the Giants, dicey Giants receiving core once again. No surprise. We've seen Detroit money, and I wouldn't be surprised at all to see more Detroit money. If they like the Lions, bet them sooner rather than later. There's already been a bunch of Detroit money. We may well see more.
And the three total plays make sense. Browns, Ravens under. Ravens did nothing on offense, only had 260 yards, but got 5 turnovers from Cincinnati. Patriots, Saints over. Bradford lit up the Saints. You figure Belichick, can he fix the defense in a week? But Bree should have success throwing on New England at home. And Seahawks, 49ers under. San Francisco couldn't move the ball at home against Carolina. And the Seahawks have a horrible offensive line that couldn't do anything against Green Bay.
Sure, exactly. It's all stuff that makes sense when it comes to these early totals. And again, we're not seeing huge moves on these totals, but there's been definite wise guy support for that Browns-Ravens under, for the Seahawks-49ers under, and for the Patriots-Saints over. That's the type of info our viewers are looking for right here on Sportsbooks. They want to know where the money's going. That's where it's going. Midweek NFL line moves.
Up next, big game breakdown. We start with one college game on ESPN. New Mexico goes to Boise on the Smurf turf, and we'll get to the Astros and Angels on Sportsbit. Betting Insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Go to SBRodds.com. Browse, compare, and shop live odds available at top online sportsbooks.
Back on Sportsbit, Pauly and Teddy, Betting Insight today. Big game breakdown, always sponsored and powered by BetOnline. Exceptional customer service, strong promotions, and every type of wager we're looking for. Check out the bonus page, sportsbookreview.com, for the latest and best offers. To open a new account today, Thursday, ESPN. Boise, 15.5 on the Smurf turf against New Mexico, 58.5 the total. Last trip, New Mexico pulled the upset and won outright. This kind of offense gives Boise problems. They always struggle against Air Force and New Mexico. Can they recover from that disaster Saturday night, up 21 with 8 minutes left? Lost on the road at Washington State in triple overtime, 47-44. The defense has done its job, though. They played well. You got a lot to go over here. The defense doing a good job with Boise, and also what are they going to do at quarterback? As the Kansas transfer struggled, they might put the freshman in as Rippin's banged up.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with the money. The money's coming on New Mexico. We've seen a fair bit of Lobo money. In fact, that 15.5 BOL is actually down to 14.5. Once again, the line's moving as we're recording, but we're definitely seeing a clear support for New Mexico in the market. Now, that has a lot to do with the QB situation for Boise State, but let's start with the concept. All right, Boise's defense was my biggest question mark about this team coming into the season. Look at the graphic. Through 2 games in regulation, Boise's defense has allowed fewer points than Boise's offense. And Boise's offense gave up 2 interception return touchdowns and a fumble return D. And the Broncos defense, only 20 points in the 2 games. Here's a quote from Brian Harsin. I was proud of our D. I thought they had a good plan. They played hard. I think we had guys positionally in place. We need to find a way to finish too. It's not one figure or another. It's a team result when it's all said and done. So, I have a number of concerns about Boise in this game, but one of them is this is a defense that's got to face a major transition. Think about what Washington State does, air raid. Now, they have to face the New Mexico option. They're tired off a late night triple overtime game with a short practice week. That's not a great situation. Of course, the Brett Rippins problem is a real situation here for the Boise State Broncos.
Could be Cord, the freshman, getting ready to play. Cozart, the transfer from Kansas, had a horrible pick six late in the game, a shovel pass that was returned to the house, and he struggled in overtime as well. Harson's quote, we're preparing it that way that Cord is playing. If something happens, he's got to go in there and play. You're talking about a redshirt guy. You hope you can redshirt, but you've got to have ready. Boise beat New Mexico and Albuquerque 49-31 last year as a 6-point road favorite, lost outright as a 31-point favorite last visit, as I mentioned at the top, in 2015. And we'll see if New Mexico can bounce back. They lost to their rival, New Mexico State. It was 30-5 at one point. They rallied late, went for two, didn't get it, lost 30-28. Davey not happy. There's no sting in losing. The sting is when you don't play as well as you're capable of playing. That's the sting. Although maybe they found at quarterback at least a dual threat. They can run it and throw it in the loss.
Well, yeah. I mean, the Lobos aren't a team that's going to chuck the ball around down the field. What they do. And I mean, Bob Davey, when you talk about a guy, I don't know if there's a coach that's done more with less than Bob Davey over the last 5 seasons. And he's sitting in, Albuquerque, New Mexico, not exactly a media hotspot. And all he's doing is getting his team prepared week in, week out. Yeah, the Frosh Kubi, Tabaka Toyoti. He came off the bench. He went 10 of 19, 151 yards, 2 touchdowns. And again, this isn't going to be a downfield passing game, but he certainly brings something they can build up to the future, although Lamar Jackson expected to remain the starter. New Mexico's been real good in this role, Pauly, consistently. All right. Yep. They're 4-1 against the spread, taking double digits against Boise since Bob Davey became coach. And that includes the one outright upset win, as you were talking about. Their last visit here as 31-point dogs. They won straight up. And how about this? New Mexico 8-3 against the spread since 2014, taking 10 or more points. They've been real good big dogs throughout the Bob Davey era.
Amen to that. Game number 2, live odds bet online. It's the Angels at home to the Astros. Pitching change. It's Fires now against Skaggs. Houston's $1.23, 8.5 the total. Fires one quality start since August 1st, 37 runs allowed and 38 innings of work. Coming off his first bullpen game of the season. Hard hit in one inning there as well. Look at this. Last two starts, 8 1/3, 14 runs, 15 hits. Horrible. And I will point out, they are now behind Cleveland for home field advantage.
Yeah, I mean, this is an Astros team that seemed to have a lock on home field advantage. What, a month ago? Less than a month ago. They entered last night a game and a half behind the Indians. Now, you talk about what's going on here. Lance McCullers was supposed to get the start for Houston today. This is a guy who's been on the DL twice already this season. He's only 23 years old, and he's got a 3.13 FIP over more than 317 innings of work. That's nice at the MLB level. But McCullers, look at the graphic. Let's just throw it up there, even though he's not going today. This is a guy who throws, what do we say, too many curveballs to stay healthy. Look at the curveball leaders for 2017. Obviously, it has affected his health, and that's why we're seeing Fires today, who has been nothing short of miserable for Houston since basically the beginning of August. He's been pretty darn lousy.
Well, I give them credit because they're hanging in, but the Angels are 2 games behind the Twins for the second wild card. They can't get innings from their starters, 44 innings over the last 10 games. And Skaggs gets the start. He did go 6 innings in a game. Some of his best stuff in his loss, the good stuff in the loss at Oakland, 3-1. But Skaggs had to put extra work in prior to the start because of the bad slump. Here he is. It's definitely a positive step. I worked my butt off the last 4 days. I threw a 50-pitch bullpen on a game day, on a day game in Texas. I was just out there working on everything. The fruits of my labor showed today, but I still have a long way to go. So we'll see how he does today. 1-5 with a 4.86 this season, and 12-20 with a 4.66 in career. I don't expect any magic here. And again, that's the problem with Scioscia. The bullpen's bailed him out because you're throwing Nolasco and Skaggs, and Bridwell's been let up his last few starts as well. These are the guys who they're throwing. And they got Richards back who pitched well the other night, but that's who they're throwing out there every 5 days.
We got to give Scioscia credit for this. I mean, this is really an impressive job. LA has no starting pitching, riddled with injuries. They've gotten 44 innings out of their starting pitchers over the last 10 games. And here they are, September. They lost Mike Trout for half the season. Didn't matter. They're in the midst of the race. Of course, the fact they lost a 1-0 last night, shut out by Verlander, is a concern here with this pitching staff, with Skaggs and the Hill. LA's got to score runs to be involved in this contest. If I'm playing the Angels in this game, I may well put that into a little bit of a correlated parlay, Angels and over. I don't think Skaggs is going to shut them down.
We'll talk underdog moneyline parlay up next, and correlated parlays coming up on sport. How to bet a little to win a lot on Sportsbook. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com.
Research before you bet. Be sure to check out SBR Picks for the best game predictions, breakdowns, and much, much more.
Wrapping it up on Sportsbet, betting insight today, Thursday and Friday during the football season will be 4 games. Big game breakdown, the marquee games, college and pro. We finish it out today with the deep dive. Bettors like to, especially the public, likes to bet a little to win a lot. And professionals will parlay time to time if it's correlated, Teddy. Big vulnerability here for the books, as you saw a couple of these big tickets cash over the weekend.
Yeah, sure. And, the goal of this deep dive is to talk about underdog money line parlay, which in my mind is legitimately the biggest vulnerability for the books. The bookmakers are looking for correlated parlays, and you can get away with side and total. Certainly that's one situation. We just talked about that a few moments ago in baseball, where if you like the Angels tonight, maybe you want to look at the over in that contest. And, with your standard two-team parlay, you're going to get paid 13-5. All right, that's your standard payout on a two-team. So the sportsbook wants to attract attention, they'll give you 14-5. Let's just take a look at an example from last week. 13-5, you get paid on your two-teamer. Here's a couple of dogs. What do we have? We have the Kansas City Chiefs. They're a 12-win team from last year, a playoff squad from last year. Kansas City Chiefs in the money line, not a bottom feeder. We have Oklahoma. Here's Oklahoma. They're the favorites to win the Big 12. They're legit playoff contenders. They're not bottom feeders. An Oklahoma, Kansas City money line parlay. Not 13-5, not 2.6-1. Paid 14-1 last week. 14-1. And if you shop around, you can even find a little bit better than that. That's a two-teamer. Okay, so we're not talking about a situation where you got to hit 5 and 6 and 8 teamers. My kids' Little League practice last night. We're in Vegas. Everybody's betting parlays. I got a guy betting all dogs. He's got $20. He's got $1,800 on the line if he wins. If the Astros can close out the game against LA. Boom. Underdogs on the money line. And again, we're not talking about a sophisticated bettor. We're talking about a recreational player, but it shows the power of what a $20 bet can do. And I'm not talking about 5 and 6 teamers. I'm talking about 2 and 3 teamers where you can literally take a little and turn it into a lot. Let's talk about some examples here, Pauly. What do you say?
Oh, yeah. Usually you also have the dog wins outright. You don't need the points. It happens a lot in the NFL. All right, what do you want? What's your strategy with the bankroll?
Well, one thing you want to do is make sure there's a couple of factors to be concerned with. One, you don't want, when you're talking about these long shot money line parlays, they're not going to cash every week. You're going to have bad weeks with them. When you have good weeks, if you have one good week over the season, you're going to break even. If you have 2 good weeks, you're going to make some money. If you have 3 good weeks, you may well make a whole bunch of money. So you want to isolate your bankroll. Instead of siphoning off some every week, isolate. Hey, I'm going to put $500 into this long shot parlay bankroll, or $1,000 into the long shot, or whatever you want to do, $100, and make $5 or $10 bets. But you definitely want to isolate that portion of your bankroll and not freak out. All right, hey, it's dropping. You're just looking for 1 or 2 big weeks over the course of the campaign. Bankroll management and isolating that percentage of your bankroll. This is what I'm going to risk for this season with these underdog money line parlays. Let's see what we can put together. So that's certainly something you want to be aware of for bankroll-wise. And timing-wise, it's worth talking about too, particularly in college football. NFL upsets happen from week 1 to week 17. In college football, there are a couple times a year where you see a lot of upsets, more upsets than normal. Beginning of the season, when powering numbers are real dicey for just about every team, not for just about every team, but there are dicey powering numbers out there where the bettors can take advantage of. At the beginning of conference play, when teams have looked great in non-conference play or terrible in non-conference play, and now all of a sudden the games matter for real, you often see significant switches. And of course, in late November, as the pressure starts to ratchet on some of these undefeated teams. Think of Louisville last year as a prime example. When the pressure starts to ratchet, all of a sudden, these teams start to lose more games outright than they had than they normally would. And that's, of course, what you're looking for with the underdogs on the money line.
Anything else you want to add?
Well, yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about some concepts. Let me just give a couple of examples. All right. 3-teamer. Again, in Vegas, 3-team parlay is going to pay 6-1. If you find a shop that's offering a bonus, it might give you 6.5-1 or something like that on a 3-teamer. Now, let's just look at this example. We're not talking a huge underdogs. Let's say a 3-teamer at plus 350, plus 250, plus 150. You can get 6-1 if you're taking them plus the points. It's paying 38-1 on the underdog money line parlay. Your standard 5-teamer in Vegas, a 20-1 payout, minus 110. Okay. You get a good book. Oh, they'll give you 21-1. All right. Let's just take those minus 110s and turn them into short dogs. Plus 120. That's minus 2.5 point dog. Okay. Or plus 2.5 point dog. Turn those, 5-teamer at plus 120 dogs. Instead of a 20-1 payout, you're getting a 50-1 payout. These are examples of how underdogs on the money line, when put together, can legitimately turn a little into a lot. And I'm not talking 5-teamers. I'm not talking 6-teamers. 2, 3-teamers will make a big difference. And when you start hitting some of these guys, I like to find 5 or 6 live dogs and kind of wheel them together in different combos, keeping the bet sizes low, keeping the parlays 2, 3, maybe a 4-teamer. But the key, when you hit one, it's going to pay something. In my mind, this is one of the biggest vulnerabilities for all the sports books in existence. And the whole key, 2 to 3-teamers pay a lot, not a little. I encourage you, check it out. Give it a shot this weekend.
All right, money time, play of the day. Back to the game Thursday on ESPN. Ready number 103. Let's grab the 15.5 for New Mexico. 17 long gone, but we'll take it. Good value here. They beat them on the Smurf turf 2 years ago. They're not afraid. They're not scared. And Davey's an excellent coach. That system, that type of offense gives Boise fits. Plus, you're looking at Kozart at quarterback who can't throw the ball, or the freshman playing in there, as we talked about earlier with the quote from Harsin. Let's grab the points. And a pissed off New Mexico team that did not play well and got beat by New Mexico State. They went to a bowl game last year and won a game. They won their bowl game, so they're not bad. Let's take 15.5 on ESPN. We're back Thursday and Friday. Hardcore football breakdown, the big games, college and pro on Sportsbooks. Betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Talk to you then.